Even though there are a lot of well-known Roman emperors, Nero might be the most notorious. At the young age of 16, he ascended to the position of emperor in 54 CE, and he became a notoriously brutal and debauched leader. Nero was the final Julio-Claudian emperor and was in power when Boudica revolted in Britain. Many of the legends surrounding Nero originate from historians writing during the reign of the Flavians, the emperors who followed after him, and who had a hidden agenda to present the Julio-Claudians in a negative light. How accurate is what we know about Nero then, and why did he destroy Rome with fire? Don't forget to subscribe to Ancient History for fascinating insights into the mysteries of the ancient world and captivating historical narratives. Gnaeus Domitius Ahenobarbus and Julia Agrippina, alias Agrippina the Younger, his first cousin, welcomed Nero into the world in 37 CE. Agrippina was the great-granddaughter of Augustus, the first Roman emperor, and the sister of Caligula. Nero had a strong claim to power because Augustus was connected to both of his parents. Possibly as a result, Nero's mother was banished when he was 2 years old, allegedly for her involvement in an abortive attempt to overthrow her brother Caligula. After Agrippina was found guilty of adultery and conspiracy, she was banished to a Mediterranean island. Agrippina became a widow after Nero's father passed away. At the same time, Emperor Caligula was assassinated. Agrippina was given permission by her uncle Claudius, the new emperor, to return to Rome. Agrippina was a highly ambitious woman who wed a powerful and affluent man whom she allegedly poisoned in order to inherit his wealth and position. Given that her son was the only male direct descendant of Augustus, Agrippina was aware of the dangers facing her. She had to marry her uncle in order to become Empress of Rome, which was the only way she could guarantee her future and that of her son. It was no easy task to start this marriage, and Claudius had to alter the laws governing incest in order to wed his niece. After becoming empress, she shared power with Claudius, and even convinced him to give preference to her son above his own. Nero wed Octavia, Claudius's daughter, in order to solidify his position as his heir. Agrippina was suspected of poisoning everybody who resisted her, possibly including Claudius himself, until she eventually maneuvered her son into the position of emperor in 54 CE. Nero's ascent to power left a trail of dead in its wake. Agrippina then promptly put an end to everybody she believed had previously resisted her, and it's possible that her primary goal was to govern as the young emperor's regent. In the past, the emperor's mother had hardly been acknowledged. Nonetheless, inscriptions proclaiming Nero as the son of Agrippina were made, and in one relief, she is depicted crowning her son. Coins from the first year of Nero's rule displayed both Agrippina and Nero together, and one coin even included Agrippina by herself on the obverse side. Agrippina appeared to have attained the authority she had strived so hard for. Sextus Afranius Burrus and Lucius Annaeus Seneca, two of the men she had installed, had different perspectives. They subtly replaced Agrippina's power with their own, persuading the young Nero to emerge from her shadow and act on his own. As a result, Agrippina was forced to retire by 56 CE. It would seem natural that Nero would grow up to be a monster driven by power in this setting, but it appears from his early years in office that he was, at least initially, the complete opposite. Nero restricted the power of dishonest freedmen, who had been a major source of complaint for his predecessor Claudius, and abolished the practice of holding secret trials before the emperor. In addition, he gave the Senate more autonomy, and his administration lowered taxes, outlawed the death penalty, and let enslaved individuals file legal complaints when they received unfair treatment. Compared to his mother and stepfather, Nero himself adopted a far less lethal strategy, pardoning anyone who plotted against him or objected to his reign. Nero was a typical youngster who rapidly indulged in hedonistic behaviors, which led to a scandal just 2 years into his reign, despite the fact that his government was quite successful. From that point on, Nero's character starts to demonstrate the adage, "the apple does not fall far from the tree." Nero fell in love with Claudia Acte, a former slave, around the year 55 CE. His mother was horrified, and since she was still well regarded by the Roman populace, she made a threat to endorse Claudius's son Britannicus and suggest that he be considered a better heir to the throne. However, Nero had not yet shed the influence of his mother, and he used the next chance to poison Britannicus. Next, Nero developed feelings for Poppaea Sabina, an aspirational woman who desired Octavia and Agrippina to step aside. Since Nero was aware that his mother was still well-liked by his people, he planned an accident to eliminate her completely. He tried poisoning her first, but he really should have known that she would have an antidote, because this wasn't her first experience. Nero then attempted to make Agrippina fall through the ceiling of her bedroom, but she managed to survive once more. For his mother, he then had a self-sinking pleasure barge built, but she managed to swim to safety. In the end, he just ordered assassins to attack and murder her. Then Poppaea Sabina, his mistress, got pregnant. After divorcing his spouse and wedding Poppaea, Nero sent Octavia to a secluded island, accusing her of infidelity. However, Octavia enjoyed the same level of popularity as his mother, and calls for her return through parades only served to increase Nero's resolve to get rid of her completely. At the age of 22, Octavia committed suicide in a hot bath, while chained and coerced into a Roman ritual in 62 CE. Then Nero sent her severed head to his new bride. What all of this has to do with Rome burning could be on your mind. Nero aspired to be an artist after realizing he could do anything he wanted after this. He plunged himself into acting, lyre playing, charioteering, and poetry. He started giving public performances, embarrassing himself in the eyes of the Roman people, who thought their emperor had to behave more decorously and with more dignity. When the city was completely destroyed by fire in 64 CE, Nero's standing was at an all-time low. Although the exact cause of the fire is still unknown, historians believe that it either began in the stalls outside Rome's enormous chariot stadium, the Circus Maximus, or in the slums south of Palatine Hill. For 6 days, the fire raged wildly, scorching both affluent and poor people's homes. 10 of Rome's 14 districts had entirely collapsed when the fire was put out as a result of people looting wherever they could in the turmoil. Rome lost hundreds of residents, and thousands more were left homeless. There were numerous rumors circulating that Nero was responsible for Rome's fire. The most well-known is that he performed fiddle music while Rome burnt. An additional historical account states that Nero performed an epic poem about Troy's devastation while perched above the city's walls, adorned in theatrical attire. It was reported that he cried while reciting the poem because he was so affected. However, the story that Nero had given the command for arsonists to set Rome on fire originated with his acts following the fire. Nero made the most of the circumstance, rather than moaning over the fall of the empire's capital. Nero, whose dislike of Rome was well known, started rebuilding the city in the Greek style as soon as the fire was put out. He created a new residence known as the Golden House, which would occupy a third of Rome. Many believed that he had destroyed Rome to satisfy his own creative aesthetic, just as he had done with his mother and wife, because of his grandiose plans. Modern historians have mostly rejected Nero's narrative that blamed Christians for the Great Fire of Rome and portrayed him as an ostentatious fiddler while the city burnt. There is evidence that he was not in Rome at the time and most likely contributed to the city's efforts to recover. Nero's actions suggest that, despite attempts by ancient historians to demonize him, he may have sincerely wanted to help Rome during the catastrophe, organizing rescue operations and offering assistance to people in need. It's possible that anti-Nero feeling inflated the fire's size and influenced historical narratives that portrayed him negatively. The nobility became resentful of Nero's reign because of his large-scale taxing and construction initiatives. He increased the tax burden on estate owners by devaluing money and insisting on pure silver for payment. Even though his grand castle was supposed to be a public place, his plans for it stoked unrest. Chaos and violence were common throughout the empire as a result of Nero's lavish spending and disdain for the interests of the nobility. Nero may not have been the main cause of Rome's burning, but his careless actions and fiscal policies planted the seeds of unrest that eventually resulted in severe unrest. That's all for this video. We will be back soon with another informative video. Don't forget to like and share this video. To keep exploring ancient history together, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Until next time!